All right, hello and welcome. Today, we're diving into one of the most important and, let's be honest, often the most dreaded meetings in the Agile world, the Sprint Retrospective. We're going to show you how to turn it from a total chore into your team's actual secret weapon for sustainable, high-quality delivery.
So, does this sound familiar? You get to the end of a sprint, you see it on the calendar, the retro, and instead of feeling like, yes, an opportunity to improve, it just feels like an obligation. A low-energy meeting, everyone's just trying to survive. If that's you, trust me, you are not alone.
Yeah, this is what a bad retrospective looks like. Some people call this zombie scrum, where you're just going through the motions, but there's no life, no real progress happening. People are scared to say what they really think, so it just turns into a complaint session where nothing ever gets fixed. It's boring, it's predictable, and it's pretty much the exact opposite of what Agile is supposed to be. So why does this happen? Well, it's not just about bad habits. The reason these meetings fail so often is actually rooted in the science of how our brains work in teams. So let's start with Section 1, the science of failure. It really all starts with this one core concept, pioneered by Dr. Amy Edmondson: psychological safety. This is, hands down, the single most important ingredient for an effective team. It's that gut feeling, that shared belief that you won't be punished or humiliated for speaking up with ideas, questions, concerns, or, and this is the big one, mistakes. Without this, an honest retro is basically impossible.
And look, this isn't just some fluffy, feel-good idea. Google's massive study, Project Aristotle, proved this has a direct impact on the bottom line. It's measurable. They found that teams with high psychological safety didn't just feel better, they flat out performed better. Sales teams, for example, beat their targets by a whopping 17%.
See, when psychological safety is low, our brains get hijacked by something called extraneous cognitive load. The best way to think about it is like mental static. It's all the brain power we waste on things that have absolutely nothing to do with solving the actual problems. Instead of focusing on making the work better, our brains are busy doing something else entirely.
And this is exactly what that mental static looks like in a retro. Your mental energy is being burned on calculating the risk of speaking up. You're worrying about who's going to get blamed for a mistake. You're censoring your own best ideas just to avoid a little conflict. This is why those bad retros feel so exhausting. We're spending all our energy on self-preservation, and there's just nothing left in the tank for actual improvement. So, how do we fix this? How do we get rid of all that cognitive static? Let's move on to Section 2 and lay out the blueprint for a good retrospective. This is the goal. A meeting that feels safe, where the focus is on improving the system, not pointing fingers at people. A meeting that always ends with concrete, actionable things to do. It leaves the team feeling energized and connected, not drained and cynical. And the way we get there is built on these three foundational pillars. Number 1, you have to actively build psychological safety. It doesn't just happen. Number 2, you've got to vary the format to keep people engaged. And number 3, every single retro has to drive toward real, concrete action.
Okay, that's the theory. But how do we actually do this stuff? Let's get into Section 3, putting it into practice. I want to give you some practical tools you can use in your very next retrospective.
To keep the energy up, you have to change the format. Seriously, instead of the same old what went well, what went wrong, try a metaphor. The sailboat is great. What's the wind pushing us forward? What's the anchor holding us back? Mad, sad, glad taps into the team's emotional state. The 4 L's, love, learn, lack, and long for, gives you a nice structured way to look back. Each one of these unlocks a different way of thinking, and you'll get insights you never get from a simple list. Now, a huge part of building psychological safety is avoiding this really common trap, an anti-pattern that Martin Fowler calls prime directive ignorance. This is basically what happens when the team forgets why they're even there, and the whole meeting just devolves into finger-pointing and blaming individuals. So what's the fix? Well, you have to actively reset the team's mindset by stating the prime directive at the beginning of every retro. It goes like this: regardless of what we discover, we understand and truly believe that everyone did the best job they could, given what they knew at the time, their skills and abilities, the resources available, and the situation at hand. Just saying that out loud completely reframes the conversation. It moves it away from personal blame and towards system improvement. Section 4. Your team's superpower. Because when you combine that psychological safety
With engaging formats and a real commitment to take action, the retrospective totally transforms. It stops being a boring meeting about the past and becomes the engine that builds your team's future.
If you take only one thing away today, please let it be this. A successful retrospective isn't about finding out who to blame for a problem. It's about figuring out what part of the system allowed that problem to happen, and then working together to fix that system for everybody.
So, as we wrap up, I'll leave you with this question. Forget trying to solve everything all at once. In your next retrospective, what is the single, small, actionable improvement your team can commit to? Because that is where the journey to a truly sustainable and high-performing team really begins.